Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk again today. We're going to have a conversation about comments made by the Cleveland Browns GM Andrew Berry yesterday at training camp. Let's be very clear. He is supportive of both plans, whether it's Brook Park or renovating downtown. But he made it known he prefers a dome stadium situation. He said it's better for the players when we're talking about conditions in the Midwest. He said it's also better for the fans. Now, the reason this catches our attention is that we're waiting for an announcement from Mayor Justin Bibb. I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago on the topic of the North Coast project. We're talking about the renovation and really the expansion of the area around the current Brown Stadium. And while he had nothing to tell me at the time, he did say that before the football season starts, he would roll out his pitch to the Cleveland Browns to keep them downtown. Now, what's interesting is we just found out also late yesterday that Mayor Bibb and the city is going to hold what they're calling a North Coast Lakefront Forum. That's going to happen on August 5th of next week. It's going to be at 4 in the afternoon. And will this be an idea that the city has to be prepared to go forward with this redevelopment of the North Coast? This is the area around the Rock Hall, the Great Lakes Science Center, those big, massive parking lots behind the stadium. Will this North Coast plan have to be maybe a two-parter? What it looks like with a stadium and what it looks like without a stadium. It'll be very interesting to say the least. But let's have a conversation about this ticking clock. The Cleveland Browns have a lease on the stadium downtown until 2028. That means if you are going to build a brand new stadium, you better be making a decision soon because, as we know, new construction takes a lot of time, especially if we're talking a dome situation. Work would have to be done on the highways, the exits in that area of Brook Park. The airport has discussed a problem that they foresee anybody trying to get to the airport on a Sunday. There's a whole lot of issues. We're not going to tackle all of them, but we're going to tackle a few. We're going to welcome in Jonathan Ernest. He is with the Weatherhead School of Management. He's in the area of economics and teaches a class in sports economics. Very interesting to the time. Professor, how are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Let's get to this idea of why is there a ticking clock, and perhaps why is that clock getting a little bit louder and louder every day?
Yeah, so if we think about the lease going through 2028, that feels like it's still pretty far away. We have several seasons to play in the meantime. But if we're considering especially building an entirely new stadium in a new location, that often takes at a minimum 2 to 3 years, more like 4 or 5 years for a more complicated build when you're working in new features, domes, etc. And so that means really getting started now. It's kind of pushing up on that limit of getting things done without causing lots of issues and having to make last minute plans to hold a season somewhere else or continue on in a stadium that you're abandoning, things like that. So it's really because of that question of potentially moving the stadium somewhere else that it's making that clock tick a lot faster at the moment.
Let's be honest, we are not the first city to be dealing with a brand new stadium and dealing with the questions of should it be in my downtown, should it be in one of the suburbs. I can rattle off a list of stadiums that are no longer in their downtown. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, the Arizona Cardinals, the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots have not been in Boston for a number of years. So this is not new to just Cleveland. There is a precedent. But what is at stake for downtown Cleveland? What is at stake for any downtown losing an NFL team?
Yeah, so it can be reasonably costly to have a team move from its downtown area out to the suburbs. There can also be benefits, and it's kind of a case-by-case thing, right? So in some of these areas, there's a lot of people in maybe corresponding nearby cities who can more easily access a team that's out on the suburbs somewhere. Traffic flows might be better, that sort of thing. But you also lose that kind of anchor downtown of drawing people in, going to hotels that are set up nearby, going to nearby restaurants, etc. Right now, we can take advantage of that, having not only the Browns located down by the lake, but just across the way, having baseball and basketball as well. And that allows for you to kind of take advantage of that. That moving out leaves a large open area that makes it really hard to kind of go forward with some of these plans of renovating that lakefront area that Mayor Bibb is pushing for, because you need to fill in that gap in terms of that stadium, and then also still somewhat support development of a whole new local area around wherever the stadium might move to, somewhere like Brook Park. So
When you lose a stadium, is it, and I'm being devil's advocate here, let's say you have somebody who says, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just 8 Sundays a year.
yeah, so it is a different discussion for something like a football stadium than maybe baseball stadiums that we've seen be successful moving out to more suburban areas where they're having 80 plus games a year, plus a few other events. And you do lose more than just those 8, Sundays, right? You lose the opportunity to host other concerts, the Rolling Stones or monster trucks or whatever else may come in that particular area. Now, depending on whether or not some of those still get offered, or we have the capacity to offer those sort of events in, say, a dome, you might have more opportunities for some of those. But you're then having people travel in or coming over to see that event in that suburban area and not in that downtown center where they're not going out to Playhouse Square restaurants and bars and all these fun things. So you do lose out more than just those 8 Sundays, potentially, but it's a different discussion than moving the team entirely from the city of Cleveland to somewhere else, where you lose that whole sense of being a major league city and kind of belonging, those sorts of things. That's a little bit different discussion.
And let's remember, the Rolling Stones generally don't like to play outside in November, so you've
Not a
got
lot of
that.
home field advantage for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the chess match that is. There has to be some playing out behind closed doors, even though we as a news organization keep asking the mayor's office. I do have a source within the Cleveland City Council. The Cleveland City Council has not been briefed once on what Mayor Bibb's plan is. I found that out today, and there are some members of the City Council who are getting pretty upset by this. But this seems to be a chess match being played between the Haslams and between Mayor Bibb. Is that the way to put this? What kind of angling do you think might be going on behind closed doors?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great way to think about it. It really is. It's pretty similar to when we have something like a strike or a lockout, with the sports team, where there are these two sides, they have different goals, what they want to maximize. And the timing of it can really affect kind of who's feeling the pressure at a given time. And the statements that they make can affect public consensus on, how we feel something should go down or happen. So right now, I think that clock that you talked about ticking a little faster. The Haslams and the Cleveland Browns want that clock to be felt right now. They want to kind of feel like it's crunch time, because they know if they don't, if we don't decide soon to potentially move a stadium, that means that basically becomes off the table. If the team needs a new place to play 2 years out, if we get to 2026 and we only have 2 years left or so, then building an entirely new stadium in a new location might no longer be a really credible option. And that means they can't lean on the city as much to try to convince them to pitch in more to keep this team in the current stadium with some renovations. So right now they're really relying on that. How much of it is kind of trying to make it seem as if they might move the team for greener pastures in order to increase how much the city's willing to really chip in and keep them there in their current spot, we'll have to see. Or how much of it is legitimately, they might want to move to this new area, build a whole new facility. That's what they're trying to figure out right now. But both sides both have to kind of be open to both possibilities, plan for both possibilities. I know that's getting more and more expensive for Mayor Bibb's plan to kind of plan a lakefront with or without the stadium. But it's a real decision that needs to be made and could be quite costly one way or the other. And they're just trying to figure out what that bargaining should be.
It's going to be interesting to say the least. Now let's talk a little bit about the comment that was made yesterday. Andrew Berry is the GM, basically the head person in charge of the Cleveland Browns, and he answers to only two people, Dee and Jimmy Haslam, the owners of the Browns. You wouldn't think, and this might be, maybe the pushing forward of a pawn, when the GM holds a news conference, and granted it's, this is training camp time, but when he gets in front of a set of microphones and he's asked about a stadium, going to be very clear again, he said he is open to both, but he said he prefers a dome. Should we take that at face value? He's just making a comment on his own, or is that perhaps maybe again just a little bit of the next chess move?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both, maybe. So if you have one side that's trying to either get the best decision for themselves, which financially weighing the cost and benefits might be building a dome in a different location, opening up to, more opportunities to add cool features, opening up to more year-round kind of programming. Maybe that's, what he's just focused on, is that players can play without the harsh weather, fans can enjoy it without the winds blowing off the lakefront. Or it might be that in talking up those potential benefits, it really makes it, more likely that the city will realize that, hey, there's a lot of good going on with that potential dome, so we're going to have to counter that with an even better offer and make sure that we keep the team in downtown for part of this larger plan to contribute. So it's really hard to tell, is it just we're weighing the costs and benefits and only focusing on those potential benefits because they make it look really rosy and therefore increase the offer from the other side, or do we really think that the costs are outweighed by the benefits in that particular case?
We're speaking with Jonathan Ernest. He is at the Weatherhead School of Management. That is at Case Western Reserve University. Professor, we're going to give you the final word here. What do you think is going to be the most interesting to watch over what might be the coming months to the coming year? What's going to be the most interesting thing to watch? What should Browns fans watch for?
Yeah, so that's it's quite interesting, because I think now kind of off the table are some other issues of, do we build a dome downtown? Do we move the team entirely out of state? Although those are always kind of back burner things. I think what to really focus on now is, how will the team be kind of brought into the fold in Cleveland in a larger holistic way? Is it building a new location where all of this activity will go on and people will be excited about? Or is it really revamping that downtown location in part of a bigger emphasis to make it really fan friendly and great for everyone going down there and great for the team? So we'll see where we end up. Hopefully all that posturing works its way out and we end up with the best option moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We know there are a lot of meetings that are happening behind closed doors, even down in Columbus. We will get a whiff every once in a while that, oh, so-and-so was down in Columbus and may have had a meeting, and they're very hard to get confirmed, and that's part of the process. Professor Ernest, we certainly appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to do it. Great talking with you.
All right, take care, sir. Again, this is going to be a debate and a topic and an issue that's going to go on for quite a while, and we will be there every step of the way. Don't think by any stretch of the imagination we are close to a decision, but every day that comes off the calendar is perhaps another day closer. If we have any other breaking news, it's going to happen right here on our digital platforms. Remember, we start 3.5 hours of news and weather at 3 o'clock on Channel 19, so we'll see you there. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great day.
19 News is everywhere. Download our